Welcome to everybody who's joined us today for this fourth series or fourth webinar in our IFSA Master series of webinars, which are of course complimentary and come to you all compliments of IFSA, just to help us through these difficult COVID times and to make sure that we're all staying in touch and that we have an opportunity still to further our feng shui knowledge and understanding, and also to communicate with each other. So I hope you enjoy today's complimentary session, Top 10 Tips for Home Buyers. Before we start, some of you already know me, others may not, so let me just briefly introduce myself. I am an IFSA accredited Feng Shui Master. My name, of course, is Janene Laird. I run a consultancy primarily out of Melbourne, Australia, but I do consult throughout Australia and also internationally as well. And I have done so since 2003. I'd also, before I start, I'd also like to introduce all of you, if you're not familiar with the International Feng Shui Association and our executive committee. If you look on your screen now, there's a lovely picture there which was taken at the last time we met face to face, which was in November before the International Feng Shui Convention in Singapore. And going from left to right on your screen, I'd like to introduce you to the executive committee. First on the left in the blue suit is our president, Mr. Darren Ng, and he's also president of TTG Events, who are facilitating in conjunction with IFSA this master series of webinars. So I'd like to thank our president, Mr. Darren Ng, and indeed TTG Events for making all this possible. Next to the left, of course, is Master Yap Bo Chu. Many of you are very familiar with the Yap Cheng Hai Academy, and of course his father, Grandmaster Yap Cheng Hai. So we're very privileged to have Master Bo Chu on our executive committee. Next to the left is our Romanian chapter president and IFSA accredited Master Christina Groza, who will be doing the next webinar. Next to her, of course, is a face that's very familiar to a lot of you, Grandmaster Raymond Lowe from Hong Kong. Next to the left, another face that's very familiar to you is Grandmaster Vincent Ko from the Singapore Feng Shui Centre. Next on there is a most wonderful fellow, Mr. William Lai. Next there, of course, is myself. Next to me on the right is Master Jacek Klieg, who is the chapter president in Poland, and he'll also be doing a presentation in the next few months. Another face familiar there is next to Master Jacek is Master Goguan Leong, who of course accompanied Grandmaster Tan in our last presentation and also did the presentation before. So he's having a well-earned rest today. Rini Ung is next to Master Go, and she is the senior manager at Wei Feng Shui Group. She helps get us organized. Next to her is, of course, our very charismatic Grandmaster Tan Kun Yong from Wei Feng Shui Group, who, along with Master Go, did the wonderful presentation last month. Our Secretariat, Ms. Yin Ling, who we could not do without, she's indispensable to all of us, is next to Grandmaster Tan. And of course, last on the right, I think everyone's very familiar with this fellow too, Grandmaster Dr. Stephen Skinner. So that's all of us on the IFSA Executive Committee. And now that I've introduced us, let's get on with today's webinar. Okay, so of course, today is top 10 tips for buying a house. Now, there's a lot of people that look at different things, and I certainly won't be covering everything today on that checklist. And some of you may say, oh, I don't take that into consideration, or, you know, perhaps I'd like to add that on, and that's fine. These are the top 10 things that ordinarily I look for when I'm selecting a home on behalf of a client. The first thing you need to know is know yourself. And this applies to anybody who is a student, a consultant, or someone who is a feng shui enthusiast. You know, you need to know basically your Minghua number and something about your Bazi. Now, today I'm not going to talk about Bazi because it's a very deep, big subject, and one that if you're not trained in it, you will need to have a professional to help you with that. What I'm going to focus on today are things that you can do for yourself, and that is your Minghua number. So what is your Minghua number? Calculating your Minghua. Now, our Minghua helps us to know whether we belong to the East Life Group or the West Life Group. Now, this is very, very familiar to a lot of people, how to calculate the Minghua. But for those of you who it's not, I'm going to run through very, very briefly how to do that. So when your Minghua number, it's based only on your year of birth. So it's very easy. Whereas Bazi is based on your year, your month, your day, and your hour of birth. The Minghua is more simple calculation. It's just based on your year of birth. And what you have to do is you have to add up all the numbers and reduce them to a single digit. Now, down there you'll see under examples male and female. Let's take a male who's born in 1973. Add it together. This is really simple stuff. 1 plus 9 plus 7 plus 3 equals 20. Reduce that to a single digit. 2 plus 0 equals 2. Now, if you're a male, you then subtract that from 11. So 11 take away 2 equals 9. So your Minghua number, if you are a male born in 1973, and don't forget that's after February the 4th, because Chinese New Year, we start on or around the 4th of February every year. But if you are indeed 1973 and a male, your Minghua is number 9. If you are a female born in 1973, addition is the same. 1 plus 9 plus 7 plus 3 equals 20. Reduce it down to a single digit. But in the case of a woman, a female, you add that to 4. So 4 plus 2 equals 6. And therefore your Minghua is 6. Now, if you add up your birth dates and your single digit comes to 5, you use 2 instead, and a female uses 8 instead. Okay, let's move on now and see what does that mean. You've done the calculation, you know your Minghua number. What does that mean? How do you use that in the process of selecting a house? Okay. Here you can see East Group directions on the right, and you can see the chart underneath West Group directions. So for example, if you your Minghua added up to 1, after you reduced it, you added it up, you reduced it, and you did your subtraction or your addition, and your Minghua 1, 3, 4, or 9, then you belong to the East Life Group. And your good directions, your most useful, favourable directions are southeast, east, south, and north. Now, if you added up your Minghua and you were 2, 6, 7, or 8, then you belong to West Life Group, and your directions are northeast, west, northwest, and southwest. They're your 4 best. Now, we're not going to concentrate, we're not going to look really today about the 4 directions that are least good for you. We're going to focus on the 4 good ones, the ShengChi, Tianyi, Yanyan, and Fu Wei directions. They're the 4 directions that we want to consider in our selection criteria. So if we look at the bottom left-hand side of the screen, we can see East Life Group directions in pink and West Life directions in blue. And don't forget, when we're talking about Minghua, we are always talking about sitting directions too. So for example, if I'm an East life group person, south and north, I know I can have a house that faces south and sits in north, or a house that faces north and sits in south. Either of those are great. I can also have a house that sits in the southeast and faces northwest, or I can have a house that sits in the east and faces west. If I'm in East Life Group, if I'm West Life Group, I can have a house that faces northeast or southwest, and vice versa. I can have a house that sits in northwest and faces southeast, or I can have a house that sits in west and faces east. Okay, so that's the first thing we need to know is about ourselves. West Life Group or East Life Group. And what does that mean in terms of orientation? Okay, then we can look at the plot of land orientation. So we know our orientation. We know what directions suit us in terms of a home. Now we need to relate that to the plot of land. Generally speaking, which orientation is best for period 9 and period 1? Now, those people who have some feng shui training know that we're nearly at the end now of period 8, which began in February 2004 and is due to finish in February 2024. And the next 20-year period, of course, will be period 9, where the best direction is south. Following that is period 1, which commences in February 2044, and its direction, of course, is north. So generally speaking, houses which face north or south are well oriented for the coming 40 years. And of course, if it's particularly useful for you if you are an East Life Group person, because if you're an East Life Group person, you know that you can have a north or south oriented house. In addition to that, you know that coming for the next 40 years, it is particularly auspicious orientation. So that's great news for you. Okay, let's have a look at now that we know which orientations of houses we should be looking at, which suit us from our Minghua perspective, and also which houses are naturally oriented to take advantage of prevalent auspicious energies for the next 40 years. Let's look now at the plot of land. What sort of shape should we do? That's number 3 point. And of course, as with anything in feng shui, we like things that are regular in shape. So here we have an overview of a building development, a new real estate development, and you can see here lots and lots of plots of land. You can roughly see in the top right hand corner the arrow pointing to the north. So from a map such as this, which a lot of real estate agents provide, you can get an idea of what orientation would suit you according to your Minghua number. And then you can have a look to see what shape the blocks of land are, because, and indeed most of these are actually quite good. Most of these are pretty regular in shape in that they are square or rectangular. However, what happens if they're not? Okay, here we are. We have the rectangular shaped plot of land, and we like this because we say that the front of a plot of land relates to current prosperity, how our situation or our current status is. And then the rear of the block relates to future. Okay, so let's look at the front of the block. where the driveway is on the left-hand side of this slide. That relates to current prosperity. And that's our situation that we are in right now. And then the rear of the block, and in this consideration here, it's where the swimming pool is at the back. That relates to the future. So we really would like a block of land. If we have a regular block of land, it means that the future of us living in this house and the present are both equally good. We can move in there and perhaps it can be quite beneficial for us now, but most importantly, it will still be beneficial for us in the future. So a rectangular block of land is always a good choice. Okay, now a plot of land that is wider at the rear. Often we get a plot that is narrower at the front and wider at the rear. And this is not too bad either, because of course the front of the plot represents current prosperity, what our situation is at the moment, and hopefully moving into this house, you know, we're quite well off, we're quite happy, we're quite healthy, but we want those conditions to prevail over many, many years, and over the duration of the time that we spend in that property. So we want the back of the block, if it's not regular, we want it to be wider than the front. So a plot that is wider at the rear is also okay. However, another option is the plot is wider at the front but narrower at the back. And this for me is a no-no. And this is actually recently, I was asked by a client to inspect a number of properties on their behalf to help him with his selection criteria. And this is one that he asked me to look at. And I said no. In fact, I didn't even bother to go much past the initial inspection because the plot of land was wrong. So as you can see here at the front, where the driveway is, nice double driveway, that was all fine, nice and wide at the front of the plot, which relates to current prosperity, but the rear of the site, as you will see to the left of your screen, was very narrow. So for me, that means that they might do okay first of all when they move in, but in years to come, that good prosperity, that beneficial energy may not necessarily be sustained, and their future may not be as good as the present is. So for me, this was a no. So remember, you can have a regular shaped block, you can have one that's wider at the front, wider at the rear and a little more narrow at the front, but please don't have one that's narrow at the back and wide at the front. Another plot of land that I generally do not recommend to my clients is a corner plot of land. And that's because the yin and yang balance is not quite right. One or other in the family misses out. If you have a plot of land where the yin side is missing, and if you look at that corner plot on the left-hand side of your screen, you will see, if you're standing in the middle of the street just behind the car and you're looking towards the plot, you'll see that the left-hand side is missing from that plot. And that's the yin side of the plot, which means that the woman is not necessarily very well supported at all in that house. Now, if I was to turn around and look on the right-hand side there, you'll see that the right-hand side of the plot is missing, and that's the yang side. And of course, that represents the male in the house. So therefore, the male is not necessarily very well supported in that house. And the corner plots are often referred to as widow makers or widower makers, because for some reason or another, the woman is not present in the house, the male is not present in the house, or their work suffers or their health suffers, or you find a single person, a single female or a single male. In any house, when you select your plot or you select your house, you want a good balance of yin and yang. You do not want necessarily a corner plot. Now, there are things, of course, that you can do in terms of landscaping and in terms of garden lighting. If you already have a corner plot, you don't want to sell it, there are indeed landscaping and garden lighting options that an experienced feng shui practitioner can help you with that will strengthen a yin or a yang imbalance in a corner plot. But ordinarily, I don't recommend a corner plot to my clients. Okay, number 4 in my list of top 10 is house shape. Now, of course, we've looked at, we like a regular plot of land, so it would make sense that we also prefer in feng shui a regular shaped house. This is the floor plan of one of the houses that got onto the shortlist recently for the client that I was assisting, and it was in fact during this process that I came up with the presentation for today's webinar, because during the course of looking, I saw many things that horrified me that were on offer in the real estate market, and some things which actually worked really well. So this house has some missing sectors. You'll see I've drawn the rectangular around the perimeter of what is essentially the house plan. You'll see in the middle at the top the pool. That's open air, so that's not included in the floor plan, in the interior space. And you'll see at the bottom right-hand corner where it says Terrace 2, that's also exterior of the house, so that's not included in the interior space. So I know that those two areas are missing, but apart from that, that's quite a good rectangular house. That met with my approval. Okay, so in terms of the house shape, a regular shaped house allows for a more even distribution of internal chi. And this is why we like, architects get very fancy and they do some wonderful, wonderful things. But it invariably means from a feng shui perspective, it's a lot more difficult to get an even distribution of chi. Somewhere, someone or something misses out. But a nice regular shaped home like this, you can see that all 8 palaces are all present. So there's a more even distribution of internal chi. Now, an irregular shaped house, such as this little beauty here, even though this house was on a regular shaped, a nice rectangular plot of land, so the plot of land was good, there was nothing wrong with that, but unfortunately the house itself actually looked like a horse to me, or an animal. If you took as the head, the entry was the neck, the passage was the belly, and then at the rear were the dining and so forth, it was the rear end of the animal. So it actually looked like a horse or some sort of animal to me, this house. But more importantly, an irregular shaped house creates missing sectors, which can affect certain aspects of your life. Now, if one of the missing sectors is relates to current prosperity, you can't afford that to be missing in your house. If the energy which is most beneficial for good health, restful sleep and harmonious relationships is missing from the house, then that's going to affect your career and obviously your health and probably even your marriage. So we don't want those really important energies missing from our house because we've got an odd shaped or irregular shaped house. So for me, even though the plot of land was good, this house got a no. Okay, now we're up to number 5 in the top, my top 10 list of things to look at for a new house. Now, house number. How often do we hear about house numbers? People like, of course, number 8. Well, what's all about the house numbers? Is it fact or is it fiction? Let's have a look. Does a house number affect the feng shui? In a word, no, it doesn't. Of course, most of us love it if we have a house that ends in 8 and it's number 188 or 998 or 168 or even 80. We love it because we know that no matter what, 8 always represents prosperity and wealth, and it's always a very auspicious number. Even when it's not period 8, 8 is still considered to be an auspicious number. The next one we hear about is the number 4. No one likes the number 4. Why is that? Now, it's nothing to do with feng shui. It's all to do with cultural practice or understanding. And the reason why most people, particularly if they are Chinese or Asian, do not like to have a house that is 144 or 14 or 44 is because the Chinese character and for the number 4 and also the Chinese character for die are similar. Now you can see in the top box on the right hand side is the character for 4, and down in the bottom right hand box is the character for die. Look, they're not identical, but there's a certain amount of similarity. We can see that. But the second thing that they have in common is that the pronounced word also sounds similar. Now, I'm not going to insult Chinese speaking people by trying to pronounce these, but I can tell you that apart from a slight intonation between the way you say 4 and the way you say die, they do sound similar. So in a nutshell, most Asian and Chinese people will not select a house that ends in the number 4, and that is because of this. Now, if you're choosing the house for yourself and you don't intend to sell it and it doesn't bother you, then it doesn't bother me either. You're perfectly okay to go ahead and purchase it. Indeed, in feng shui, the number 4 is even though it's untimely at the moment, it's actually quite good, and it can relate to travel and romance and academic studies and all sorts of things. So it's not necessarily an unfavorable energy. However, if you're purchasing a home, you intend to renovate it and perhaps to on-sell it, and you are considering the Chinese or Asian market, then I would recommend you not buy a house ending in the number 4, simply because most people won't care if it's got great feng shui. They will not overcome this cultural significance. When I lived in Singapore, my apartment was number 1 on the 14th floor. And for the time that I lived in Singapore, it was fantastic. The feng shui was great. We got a bit of a discount because no local Singaporeans wanted to rent it because it was on the 14th floor. Didn't bother me. We did fine. So just remember, if it's just for you, there's no problem. But if you intend to market this towards the Asian or Chinese community, you might want to be aware of the number 4. Okay? Okay, number 6, I beg your pardon, number 6. So we know which is our orientation. We know we need a regular shaped block. We know about numbers. What about the plot itself? And before I leave home, and it's a great idea for you to do this too, is to use good old Google Earth to have a look at your surrounding external landform. Now, as a practitioner, this never ever replaces a site visit, and I never say that it does, but it's part of the homework that you should do before you leave home to assess a site or a house for a client on the ground. This one here, the two houses that were shortlisted by me for my client were actually both in this development, and they were both in this street. One they were about half a dozen houses apart. So for me, I was able to do this surrounding external macro view to have a look at which one it is. Now, if I move my mouse to here, the home in this case that I was looking at was, oops, not very good left hand, was this one here. If my mouse was right there in front. Okay, so by the macro external landform via Google Earth, I can see that behind the home, of course, is actually a large body of water. There's some trees, some quite substantial trees, all behind a whole row of substantial trees, all behind this whole row of houses, which we like because we like to have things of substance for support and protection and containment of chi behind a house. Behind those is actually part of a golf course, so that initial water is part of the water on the golf course. Behind that is a lake, and of course we have a nice island there as well. So we never mind when we're looking at the external macro, when there's natural water, we do pay attention because the right kind of natural water, even when it's behind the house, in this circumstance, can still be quite beneficial as well. So that's not bad. Also, we can see where the point of entry to the house is here at the front. And interestingly enough, I was actually able to work out too that from a Sanhe perspective, that this house, which faces North 1, had a yang flow of water because it is a one-way road, and a yang flow of water for consultants for a North 1 facing home is actually very beneficial. So I knew as well that traffic passing this house, and cars are considered to be virtual water, is actually good for this home. Okay, so now the main thing of worry for me was the water at the rear of the home going to affect the occupants here? So I needed to start going from the macro more down to the micro. So now you can see we're just right above the home here, and I can see a little bit more of the trees that I could see from the macro. I can see a little bit closer now. So large trees at the rear of this site indeed provide some good support and protection, and they also filter the view of the water. So the fact that there is water behind, there's also a lot of land with the water, is less of a worry to me. It's not lapping up right behind the house. I still have a virtual mountain in terms of the trees behind the house. And then now this is a picture inside the house of the master bedroom, which was occupies the rear of the house. Looking out through the windows of the master bedroom, then I was also reassured that indeed I could see lots of trees, some nice grassed area. There was actually quite a sense of privacy and containment in this house. So once again, the fact that there was a large body of water located at the rear really didn't worry me in this case at all. But that brings us to something that's very important, because you should always take note of what is outside the home. And a great way to do this, if we look at the left-hand picture here, where it says stand point. We should always stand in front of the house and look outward what can we see? And that's always very important to do. And there's a lot of things. If we look at the diagram on the right-hand side of your screen, you'll see various unfavourable configurations that we don't ordinarily like to see directly in front or behind or around any home that we're considering to choose. Now, the first one, the front and back surrounded by roads, there's no containment there. It's too busy. It's like it's a corner plot, but the rear of your home is compromised as well. So that would be a no. We don't want, there's various kinds of ShengChi here with facing, on an outward bend, directly facing a road, sliced by the road. Of course, we know that a house on a triangle plot of land, we don't like that. We like nice regular shaped ones. We don't like that under any circumstances. So stand at the front of the house with your back to the front door and look out and beyond. What can you see? What's affecting the home? Now, in some of these circumstances, it's not necessarily a no, because with a T intersection, a lot of people ask, or say, my home faces a T intersection, that's bad feng shui, I should sell. And the answer to that is it depends. First of all, there's some things, again, it's like the corner plot. There are some things that can be done to remediate some of these unfavourable landforms through landscaping, and the best way to landscape is by screening, and that's the use of nice bushy trees, nice foliage, those sort of things. You can certainly do a fence as well, as long as you don't completely block off the whole front of your house to the street. But certainly a lot of these can be remediated by careful, thoughtful landscaping. Okay, but it's still very important to stand at your front door and look out and beyond. So take note of what is outside the home. Okay, so we've gone from the macro, we've been on Google Earth, we've had a look at the wider view, we've had a look from the top, and now we're at the ground level. We've arrived at the house, we're standing out the front of the house and we're looking at the house. And straight away I see things that I like in this house. It has, the driveway enters on the yang side. There's the home on the right-hand side, which is the yang side, the male side, is a nice 2-story. The house on the left-hand side, which is the yin side, and the female, is also a 2-story. So there's a nice balance of yin and yang in this home. I can see the tall trees, which I'd already seen previously. I can see them behind the home, giving me a virtual mountain for support and protection and containment of chi. There's a nice wide driveway to park cars off the street. I can also straight away as a guest identify the main entrance. It is a well marked out portico with a nice set of solid stairs. There's only a few of them. It's not too steep. This is a nice main entrance. So first impressions of this home were very good. Okay, now we saw just then the nice wide driveway. If we're talking about, which of course creates a lovely Ming Tang. So any main entrance should have what we call a Ming Tang, which is a gathering place for Qi. And of course, Qi are the unseen energies in our environment. Ming Tang is also often called a bright hall. So on the left-hand side, the diagram you see on the left-hand side, we have the bright hall, which is that nice wide open area at the front before you enter. And then also internally, we like to have an entry hall internally, and we call that the internal bright hall. So we have an internal bright hall and an external bright hall. Very important. We don't like houses that are right on busy streets. The chi flows past. There's nowhere for the chi to settle and accumulate and enter your home and bring opportunities for prosperity. So we like a house that's a little bit set back from the street with a nice wide driveway and a nice easily identifiable main entrance. Now the diagram on the right hand side now is a bit of a closer up view of the main entrance, the front door of this home. Now this is where you start to look at what things are there currently that you can reasonably remediate, remove or change, and those things that you can't. And one of my pet hates, anyone that knows me knows that I hate the plants yuccas. On the right hand side you'll see this pot with a very spiky yucca. Yuccas are yucky. They are the most unpleasant pot plants. So, you know, and even on the left hand side you'll see another one that's a Dracaena, which I know drops a lot. So those things are not good feng shui, but they're easily remediated. They don't stop me from recommending this house for a moment because it's easy to swap a pot plant out. Very easy indeed. Now in terms of the door itself, it is partially glass and partially timber. I don't mind that. A lot of people prefer, and I understand why, to have a solid door. I don't mind one that has some glass and some timber. I wouldn't want to have any more glass than this one does, but it's acceptable. But what it does have, the portico does provide this wonderful bright hall. So we've already had a wonderful driveway, we've walked up the few steps and we're confronted with this lovely external Ming-Tang or bright hall for the chi to settle and collect. And then every time the front door's open and someone walks in, it brings chi and opportunities for prosperity with it. So tick to the main entrance for this house. Now, this is the same house again, and all these photos are taken from the real estate agency's advertising. So these are the sorts of photos that you might expect to see on a real estate website when you were looking for a home. Now we're inside the home, and the entry hall, remember that internal bright hall or internal Ming-Tang should be attractive and well lit, and indeed this is. And in fact, if you look at the diagram on your right hand side, when I opened the door, it did give me the wow factor for a number of reasons. First of all, the home revealed itself slowly. It didn't open up immediately, which meant that the chi came inside to the entry hall, circulated a little bit more, went up a couple of stairs and then around the corner to the left to the main body of the house. So the chi had an opportunity to meander slowly and gradually, which is what we want. Also the lovely pictures, the nice interesting architecture. This was a really nice internal Ming-Tang. And as you can see from the picture on the left hand side, it also had ceiling light, not a ceiling light, a glass ceiling there. So it was beautifully flooded with natural light as well. Very nice. So far, again, I was very happy with this one. Now, the other home, this is the other home from the short list of 2 that the clients asked me to look at on the ground. This one did not present as well from the street as you can see. If we look at the right-hand picture, first of all, the driveway is quite good. It had a good balance of yin and yang energies from the homes on either side. I could still see the trees behind. I could park 1 to 2 cars in the driveway, but I couldn't see the main entrance. How could I get to the main entrance? And if you look at the picture on your left-hand side, which I took with my camera, you can see that the current owners have quite heavily screened the main entrance off from the driveway. Now, this may be for privacy or security issues, I'm not sure, but it's one of those things that can be remediated. So it's not an instant no, but for my client, I explained to them what I would recommend doing. And now this house is located in a very secure gated estate, so there really was not any need to really screen off and lock off the main entry from the street as well. So that would be something that I would look at. Okay, so the house, the main entry should not be screened or blocked. Instead, it should be clearly identifiable and visible from the street. So this would need some remediation, but certainly very doable. Okay, so this is this house again. Once I walked through the gate and walked up to the front door, and the door was already open because the real estate agent was in there waiting for us. The next no-no was, and you're all looking at this knowing what I'm going to say already, the front and back doors should not be directly opposite each other, as qi cannot circulate properly around the home. Instead, it goes in the front door, straight down that central corridor and right out the back. Now, once again, it's not necessarily an instant no, because as you'll see, there are some things that we can do to remediate it. Is it perfect? No. Are you likely to find a few of these? Yes. Are there some feng shui solutions? Absolutely yes. And I'll show them to you in a moment. Also, if you look at the diagram, the floor plan on the left-hand side, you'll see the portico, entry, foyer, the long gallery, and that leads right the way to the back of the home where the dining and lounge room are. Now, of course, because the qi rushes straight from the front to the back, it means a couple of things. From a general perspective, people say that money comes in the front door and money goes straight out the back. So you might make the money, but you're more likely to lose it or spend it as well. That's number one. Also, it means the flow of qi goes directly to the back. So this family is likely to spend most of their time in this house at the rear of the home in the dining and lounge room. And you know what? That's fine, because nowadays that's where all our family and living areas are. They're at the rear of the home. This is how the design of this home is meant to be, how the family's meant to use it. So I know that's okay, but I know I need to slow the qi down. I need to turn this from a sa-qi into a shen-qi. And before I show you how we do that, I'm also going to point out that I never recommend the use of dead animal skins on the floor anywhere. And right at the entry point, which I walked around, I'll never walk on top of it, is of course and it was real, the skin of a zebra. Use natural fibres. Please don't use the skin of a dead animal. It's not good from many perspectives. Okay, let's go to the next one. Okay, so front and back door alignment can be remediated with the use of screens. Now, the picture on the left is a picture that Grandmaster Tan Kun Yong from Wei Feng Shui Group recently posted on his Facebook, and I hope he doesn't mind that I used this one. He gave quite a few examples of how he remediates this front and back door alignment in the properties that he does. And this is one example that he gave. You can see the front screened door there, and then to the left there you can see this really nice glass and timber screen, which gives or it means that the qi is actually maneuvered and directed around rather than going straight ahead. So you have a nice place here to display various nice bits and pieces. You have glass there, which allows you to still have a visual connection to the rest of the house and to get some light in, but it allows you to manipulate the qi and slow it down so that sa-qi becomes shen-qi. On the right-hand side, you'll see something that I would use for the house that we just looked at, and which you'll find is used in a lot of hotel lobbies where the front and the back are in direct alignment. And that's a nice, simple round table or some sort of hall table with some sort of nice decorative object on it, or a vase with flowers. And what that does is that allows the chi to divide itself on either side of the table, and that's why I like round, to go around the table and then it proceeds on. So either one of these remedies can be used. So it's not an automatic no with the front or back door alignment, but it's one of those things that must be remediated. Now, still on that house, you can see the zebra skin there. I'm standing inside and I'm looking out the front. What can I see? Not much. I can just see a very, tall wall. I can't see beyond. So the view from the main entry should not be obstructed. Ideally, you should be able to stand at your front door and see out and beyond, and I can't. So for me, again, this would be something that is would need to be remediated. If they're worried about security, certainly you can put up a fence, but I would not recommend it's a solid one. I would have some gaps in between so that chi can still flow through, and you can also get some visual connection between the street. What I do like about this house is the solid timber double doors. That was very nice. So this house wasn't perfect. It needed some remediation, but it was still on the list. Now, this was a house that was not on the list and was not ever going to get on the list either. Okay, front doors should be solid, as we saw, and they should never open directly onto stairs. So with this one, I actually didn't even bother to go any further. This was an immediate no. Chi comes in, it goes straight up the stairs to the bedrooms, not much circulates downstairs. Whilst I could replace the glass door with a solid one, in this case it wasn't worth it. Okay, let's go on to location of water. Couple of things to be considered here with the location of water. We looked at the natural water forms before, which were great, and to determine the influence of a large body of water on a home, we would do some Snr formulas for one such as swimming pools, and you can see to the right of your screen an inward facing fountain. Again, I would use a Snr formula. I would also cross-reference it with whatever internal flying star was visible from inside the home. Now, if you're a consultant, please don't make the mistake of locating your water or assessing your water, such as a swimming pool or a fountain, just based on the internal flying star. Those stop at the house. They do not go out into the open. But they are impactful when they have a visual connection. So you need to do an external Snr water formula, and there's many to go at. I won't go into them now, but you need to cross-reference those with what the internal flying star is. And in the case of this one here, incoming water, and you can see the fountain there to the left, can be auspicious or problematic for a household, and it should be checked by a professional feng shui consultant prior to purchase. Now, for this one here, the incoming water, I used the 12 life stages for this one, and it was actually not a very good one at all. It was actually grave, I believe. It was. So I know that incoming water from that position for this house would not be good for the occupants, easily remediated, whilst the swimming pool was okay. The incoming water from that fountain directed towards the house was not good. That would be a simple case of turning that off and planting some nice trees there. So in this case, that could be remediated, but that's something you'll need a professional consultant for. But please do be aware of the location of water, such as swimming pools and fountains. That's something to look for. Number 9, we're nearly there, internal arrangement and design. And this is from the back of the home that had the front and back door alignment. So of course, once we remediate that with a screen, a nice round table, this is where a lot of the time you would hang out. The occupants of the home would hang out. It's got some nice trees. It's a great place to hang out. So check out that the internal arrangement and design of the home, those things that are not easily remediated, suit your family, of course. Where's the kitchen located? After the main entry comes the kitchen, and I don't have the time to talk about kitchens in this presentation, as well as the living areas and, of course, the master bedroom. So internal arrangement and design, do they fit Feng Shui principles? Do they suit your family? Very important to consider. This was actually the master bedroom of the home with the front and back door alignment. And this master bedroom was actually really, really nice. So master bedroom should be a tranquil sanctuary. So I have a mouthful of water. Sorry, people. Ideally, it should be located at the rear of the house, which this master bedroom is, in a beneficial energy. And for those of my colleagues who understand Flying Star Feng Shui, this master bedroom was in a Mountain Star 9. So very nice. The bed should be placed against a solid wall and face one of your favourable directions as well. And that can be via your Mingua, or it can be via your favourable elements according to your Bazi. We're talking about internal design. Ensuite and toilet should not be visible from the master bedroom. The picture on your left was taken from the house with the glass door and the staircase directly opposite. Here's the master bed, and the only thing separating the master bed from the toilet was a couple of glass panels. You know, sometimes you just have to say you got to keep a little bit of mystery about you. I can't see the benefit of that. That's a no-no. The right-hand side one was another home I looked at. They cut a section of wall out so that you could see the bathroom from the bedroom, the master bed. That could be remediated, but that's just a no-no. That's no in every single way. So here's 2 more examples where also, of course, the ensuite was connected to the master bedroom. In both these cases, you know, they wanted to keep a visual connection between the bath because the view out the back was very pleasant. You know, so you would lie in the bath and have a look out through to the nice garden. That's okay. Make sure you can screen it, as the case with this one. On the left-hand one, you see screens slid across. The right-hand side, the bottom half of the wall was solid and screens filled in the top. So I have no objection to either of those ones. But preferably for me, let's keep the ensuite, the toilet, let's keep that separate from the master bedroom itself. We don't need to know what's going on in there. Okay, number 10, we've reached the last one here. Number 10 in my top 10 list. When you're looking to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars, and in some cases millions of dollars, to select your next home or your forever after home, factor in some money to employ the services, please, of a professional Feng Shui consultant. Once you've shortlisted for yourself and got down to what you think is a couple of really good potentials, call a Feng Shui consultant. Before you employ them, though, do your homework as with anything else. Check their training, their qualifications, their experience and their years of professional practice, and make sure that their training is with accredited training facilities and courses, such as are offered through various IFSA schools. Check for testimonials or references from clients, and often these are available on their websites. I don't generally give out the names. I have had some people in the past ask for contact details of previous clients. I generally don't like to do that because there's a privacy issue there, but you should be able to find some sort of testimonials or references. Check to see if they are a member of a recognised feng shui association such as IFSA. Check their fee for a residential audit and ensure that this includes a site visit. Please, no remote consultations. It's a little bit unavoidable at the moment. I totally understand. But once COVID is over, when it comes down to the last selection of your next home, you need that consultant to come on site. So it should include a site visit, an external and internal feng shui assessment of your home, and Bartzi analysis of your family. They are a must-have with anyone who is offering themselves as a professional feng shui consultant. So quickly to sum up my top 10 tips for home buyers. Number 1, know yourself. Either Mingua for the layman, and there's a lot of software programs too, but as you saw, it's a very simple mathematical equation to do, and all your Bartzi. Number 2, plot of land orientation. We know, generally speaking, north and south are going to be great for the next 40 years, but you can also orientate the block according to your Mingua, whether your east or west life group home. East or west life group person. Number 3, plot of land, the shape, regular or else a bit wider at the rear. They're the best ones to have. House shape, once again, we like regular because you get more of an even internal distribution of chi. You don't get missing sectors. House numbers, look, that's up to you according to your cultural beliefs. We know that one. Surrounding external landform should be supportive, a good balance of yin and yang on either side and something substantial behind. Another 2-story house, a virtual mountain like tall trees, that sort of thing. Main entrance, can I see it? Can it receive chi? Is it easily identifiable and accessible for my guests from the street? Location of water, be it a large body of water such as we saw, like a river or a lake, or a smaller man-made body of water such as a swimming pool or a fountain. We need some Sandher formulas. You need some expertise there. Internal arrangement and design. Have a look at what you can change and what you cannot. Some things can be remediated, some cannot, such as stairs opposite, or some of those horrible bathrooms, just too much to set them right. Have a look at that. Number 10, employ a professional feng shui consultant. It is well worth the investment in what is the biggest investment of your life. So spend some money wisely there. Last but not least, almost, something else you might like to do is to join our global IFSA family. In this photo of all of us, and many of you will be looking and see your lovely, wonderful faces here. This was taken at the end of the IFSC in November last year in Singapore, and we'd had the most fabulous time. So that's that. So join our global IFSA family. You can follow us on Facebook and Instagram, and you can also visit our website, which is at the bottom left hand side of your screen, www.intfsa.org. Our IFSC, our International Feng Shui Convention, of course, sadly this year has had to be postponed. At this stage, we are still having it in Malaysia in November in 2021, but of course, we'll touch base in the future about that, because none of us are quite sure what COVID's doing. But as soon as we're able to, we will come together again in person, I can assure you, because I know that we're all really, really, really looking forward to seeing each other again. And last of all, I'd like to thank you for your kind attention and